In 1941, the United States declared war on Japan, a response to the devastating attack on Pearl Harbor. This decision thrust the U.S. into World War II, marking a turning point in the global conflict. America's entry not only altered the balance of power, but also galvanized a unified front among the Allied nations, shaping the course of modern history. Fast forward to 1980, when the world was rocked by a different kind of tragedy, the murder of John Lennon in New York City. As a former member of the Beatles and an iconic voice for peace and creativity, Lennon's death at the hands of Mark David Chapman left an indelible mark on music and popular culture. His loss was felt worldwide, symbolizing the fragility of even the brightest stars in the public eye. By 1995, the world had entered a new phase of collaboration with the establishment of the World Trade Organization, WTO. As the successor to the General Agreement on Tariffs and Trade, the WTO provided a platform for nations to negotiate and regulate international trade, fostering global economic integration and cooperation amidst the complexities of a rapidly evolving world. In 1851, disaster struck Melbourne, Australia, as a devastating fire swept through the heart of the city, destroying much of its central business district. Known as the Great Fire of Melbourne, this tragedy reshaped the city's infrastructure and underscored the resilience required to rebuild after catastrophic loss, a theme that resonates throughout human history. Nearly a century later, in 1948, the world took a historic step to confront human tragedy on a much larger scale with the adoption of the United Nations Genocide Convention. This landmark international law recognized genocide as a crime under international law and established measures for prevention and punishment, symbolizing humanity's collective commitment to ensuring that such atrocities are never repeated. By 1993, the European continent embraced a different kind of unity and progress with the signing of the Maastricht Treaty. This agreement established the European Union as an economic and political union, laying the groundwork for greater cooperation and the introduction of a single currency, the euro. It was a bold vision for a continent that had experienced profound divisions in the past. In 1901, the world witnessed a new tradition of celebrating humanity's greatest achievements with the first Nobel Prizes. Created by Alfred Nobel, these prestigious awards recognized excellence in fields such as literature, physics, and peace, embodying the idea that individuals could inspire and advance society through their exceptional contributions. Nearly half a century later, in 1948, the global community came together to adopt the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. This groundbreaking document set forth fundamental rights to be upheld for all people, regardless of race, gender, or nationality. It reflected the world's resolve to learn from the tragedies of war and reaffirm the shared principles of dignity, equality, and freedom. By 1994, the spirit of these ideals was personified in South Africa's Nelson Mandela, who, along with President F.W. de Klerk, was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize. Their efforts to dismantle apartheid and transition South Africa into a democratic society without plunging the country into further violence showcased the power of reconciliation and the triumph of justice over oppression. In 1917, the Balfour Declaration marked a turning point in the history of the Middle East. Issued by the British government, it expressed support for the establishment of a national home for the Jewish people in Palestine. This statement would have profound and lasting implications, shaping the geopolitical landscape of the region and igniting debates and conflicts over land, identity, and sovereignty that persist to this day. By 1941, the world was engulfed in another seismic event as the United States declared war on Germany and Italy, formally entering the global conflict of World War II following the attack on Pearl Harbor. This decision expanded the scope of the war, bringing America's industrial and military might to bear on the Axis powers and altering the course of history by solidifying the Allied efforts to defeat fascism. In 1964, a quieter but equally transformative shift occurred in the realm of public health. The U.S. Surgeon General issued a landmark report linking smoking to lung cancer, a revelation that reshaped societal attitudes and government policies. This marked the beginning of widespread anti-smoking campaigns, paving the way for a global focus on prevention. transitioning into a republic with Jomo Kenyatta as its first president. This moment symbolized not only the end of colonial rule, but also the rise of a new era of self-determination and hope for the African continent. In 1642, Dutch explorer Abel Tasman became the first European to set eyes on New Zealand. His discovery opened the door to European exploration and eventual settlement of the region, forever altering the cultural and historical trajectory of the islands. It was a moment that exemplified humanity's relentless curiosity and the desire to chart the unknown. Centuries later, in 1913, another form of exploration unfolded, this time in the realm of industry. The Ford Motor Company introduced the moving assembly line, a revolutionary innovation that transformed manufacturing. By drastically reducing production time and costs, it made automobiles affordable for the masses, fueling the transportation revolution and reshaping economies and societies around the world. By 1979, humanity's advances in exploration and technology were overshadowed by geopolitical strife as the Soviet Union invaded Afghanistan. This invasion marked the start of a decade-long conflict with profound implications for the Cold War, drawing in global powers and leaving a legacy of turmoil in the region. In 1799, the United States mourned the loss of George Washington, its first president, and a towering figure in the nation's founding. Passing away at his Mount Vernon estate, Washington left behind a legacy of leadership, unity, and democratic principles that would guide the young nation for generations to come. Over a century later, in 1911, another leader made history, not in politics, but in exploration. Norwegian adventurer Roald Amundsen and his team became the first to reach the South Pole, triumphing in a grueling race against British explorer Robert Falcon Scott. Amundsen's achievement symbolized human resilience and the unyielding desire to push the boundaries of what was possible. Fast forward to 1989, when a different kind of journey reached its destination, a peaceful transition to democracy in Czechoslovakia. The Velvet Revolution culminated with the resignation of the communist government, marking the triumph of freedom and unity in a nation long